Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Michael Wald, and welcome to this presentation entitled Toxic Water, What is the Best Water to Drink? So what I'll be doing here during this short but concise presentation is to introduce you to just the concept of water, its various uses, but also the different types of water that has come on the market. And if you want to know how much water you should drink in terms of water in general, I would ask you to look at my other podcasts on how much water is the appropriate amount, which you can find on my YouTube channel or any podcast platform. Just search Ask the Blood Detective. For those of you who are new to the channel, again, my name is Dr. Michael Wald. I've been nicknamed the Blood Detective because I'm really good at laboratory work. I published this 500-page encyclopedia of laboratory tests and natural treatments, along with a dozen or so other titles. I practice in both Westchester, New York, and Richmond, Virginia. I am a board-certified nutritionist. I'm a doctor of chiropractic with a master's degree in nutrition and a PhD degree in holistic philosophy. I am a sports nutritionist, life coach. I even provide acupuncture, and I completed medical school but do not have an active license to practice medicine. So let's get into water, because it's something that I hear all the time. Patients asking me over my 33 or so year career, Dr. Wald, what's the best type of water? How much should I drink? And all of that. So let's get into it. I'll begin with a brief disclaimer that this information is for your education. It's not meant as a substitute for sound medical or health advice. So just a structural description of what water is. So water, you might remember from those early days in public school science class, that water is a molecule composed of two hydrogen atoms, one oxygen atom, forming what's known in chemistry as a polar compound. All you need to know about this polar compound is it allows water to act as the universal solvent, which means practically anything can be dissolved into it. So I'm just going to read you the statement here that its polar structure enables water to dissolve electrolytes, those are minerals, hormones, nutrients, various toxins, making it the universal biological solvent. So what are some of the health effects of water in general? Okay, then we're going to talk about specific types of water, like alkaline water, for example, reverse osmosis water. So water helps to regulate body temperature, maintains blood volume. Most of your blood is water. Water supports detoxification. If you are underhydrated, for example, your ability to detoxify diminishes dramatically. Water helps to lubricate joints and powers practically every metabolic reaction in the body. Human cells are comprised of between 60 and 75% water, and even mild underhydration or dehydration will impair not only cognitive function, thinking, but energy production, digestion, and kidney function, just to name a few of the systems that can be entirely stressed out metabolically if a person does not have adequate water balance. Water is also essential for ATP production. What's ATP? Adenine triphosphate, a fancy term for the energy molecule in the body, produced mostly in the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. So here's the cell, and then the cells have organs, but we call them organelles. One of those organelles is the mitochondria. It makes ATP. If you don't have enough water, you don't produce enough ATP. Every cell, tissue, and organ system in the body requires ATP, so that alone should tell you what a major issue it is to not be hydrated properly. So my statement here is, again, water is essential for ATP production. Nutrient transport. You cannot get nutrients from your diet transported to places if water balance is not adequate. Waste removal or detoxification is a mainstream role, I should say, of water in the body, and maintaining electrolytic activity in the nervous system and also in muscles. And you can consume too much water. So you can, for example, you can drink a bunch of water and you can dilute your sodium in your blood and in your body. And that's known as hyponatremia, where sodium levels fall dangerously because someone is overhydrated. So the sodium is diluted, causing confusion, seizure, and even death. Sometimes when I run triathlons or marathons, there'll inevitably someone who passes out, and if they are overhydrating as they're running, they will dilute their sodium, and then they're given an IV at the ambulance, and that could make their problem worse if those ENT workers or doctors there that are manning that station do not recognize it as a hyperhydration issue causing low sodium that if you give them an IV, you could dilute it even more and you can kill the person. So what are some of the different types of water out there, and are any of them meaningful? So let's take them one at a time. So first we have reverse osmosis water. So that sort of water is produced such that it essentially doesn't contain anything in it. There are no minerals, there certainly are no vitamins, and there may not be any toxic metals. In fact, by definition, they should be filtered out through the reverse osmosis process. Pesticides and microplastics are usually removed. Reverse osmosis water is usually a good choice for those with atherosclerosis and other types of cardiovascular diseases, along with various autoimmune diseases, and for detox. And I think another word about the atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease, if someone has hardening of the arteries, you wouldn't want to give them a type of water that is, let's say, mineralized, because the body, if they have atherosclerosis, probably doesn't manage their minerals well, and those minerals could just harden the arteries even more. I could argue in the opposite direction too. When considering which water to take, it does depend on the entirety of your whole health situation, but in general, with cardiovascular concerns that involve hardening of the arteries, reverse osmosis is a good choice. And then there's mineral water. So mineral water supports adrenal health because the adrenal glands that deal with the stress in our body, emotional stress, the stress of detoxification, the stress of aging, the stress of repair. And if we do not have enough minerals, let's say that might result in fatigue, poor muscle function, muscle spasm, muscle tightness. And mineral water will provide magnesium and calcium and electrolytes such that these particular conditions I've just discussed could potentially benefit just from mineral water alone. And then the next one, alkaline water, which is defined as having a pH between 8 and 10, is probably one of the most controversial out there. And here's my take on this. To begin with, I'll tell you a brief story. I had a woman with metastatic breast cancer that had spread throughout her body. She was drinking something and continuously during my consultation with her, and I asked her what she was drinking. She said alkaline water. And I said, why? And she explained that she read that breast cancer, along with other cancers, might be much worse if the person was too acid. So if she drank the alkaline water, that would make her more alkaline. So the first thing I did was ask her if I could test some of the water for its pH. And its pH was around 7. So it wasn't even matching the alkalinity stated on the bottle. But let's say it did. Number one, what she said about drinking alkaline water to make her more alkaline has no meaning. What do you mean making you alkaline? Where? So if you drink alkaline water continuously, you will induce malabsorption and malnutrition, because the alkaline water, being alkaline, will alkalinize the stomach and will neutralize the stomach acid. And we need the stomach acid to activate minerals, for example, and to absorb proteins and other fundamental nutritional needs. So if you interfere with that first process of digestion in the stomach, which alkaline water certainly does, that is a problem. The other thing is her idea that she's going to make herself alkaline. You are not going to drastically change your blood pH to more alkaline, which would make it higher. You will make it somewhat higher, but we need to be in a certain range of pH. For the blood, it's 7.4, or a range of 7.35 to 7.45, the average being 7.4. Now, for a short period of time, you might want to elevate the pH to deal with an acidotic condition. But the only time this is the takeaway. The only time I recommend alkaline water is if the person has esophagitis, inflammation of the esophagus, if they have gastritis and or ulcers. Then they would want to, and they probably would benefit from drinking alkaline water, sipping it throughout the course of the day. Not all at once, because it'll have an effect that lasts maybe 15, possibly 20 minutes at most, and then it's done anyway. So that's true for all these waters. How much and how often and when, that's maybe a topic for another conversation. So I would not have a person drinking alkaline water unless they have esophagitis, gastritis, and any inflammatory condition in the stomach or the small intestine and even the colon. The next is electrolyte water. So that's ideal for athletes, those that are just generally underhydrated, to improve adrenal gland function, help the body deal with heat exposure, and prevents low sodium. That's all possible with electrolyte water. So if I identify a client that has issues, some of these issues that I just mentioned, then the electrolyte water may be the best thing for them. Now, I might have them drink alkaline water on another day, or possibly during the same day at a different time if we have a more complex health condition that might require different effects. So it may not be just one type of water. And then there's spring water, which is naturally mineralized. It has a very clean taste. It often is mildly alkaline, which means the pH scale is 0, or 0 on your end, to 14. 7 is neutral. Water is the neutral substance. So spring water is very much near the neutral area. And it's particularly clean. And then there's distilled water, which is considered an ultra pure water. It's very useful for short-term detoxification or low mineral balance because it provides a certain amount of minerals. And I've given you some extra details in the possible harms and limitations beyond what I've just said, but everything I've mentioned are the big things. And then there's hydrogen water. It may have potential antioxidant effects, may reduce inflammation and improve recovery, but hydrogen water is not cheap. The clinical evidence is not particularly strong. The science is not really there. If anything, it's mixed in terms of it benefits, it doesn't benefit. And also, it is not regulated by the FDA, so the hydrogen content could be drastically different from one purchased product of hydrogen water to the next. So I don't recommend it. And then there's what's called structured water or clustered water, which is marketed for enhanced cellular hydration. Some users report improved energy with the clustered water, but there is almost nothing scientific about it, just a lot of claims. So I would consider it unnecessary until we have better science. Now, you might know someone or go onto some website or call some multi-level marketing company that their PhDs will swear the structured clustered water is helpful for things. That's not science. And I don't advise that you begin anything without the right science. And then there's filtered tap water, or what they call carbon charcoal filtered water. That filtered tap water, removes chlorine, VOC contaminants, improves the taste when you're using charcoal and carbon for purification of the water. And it's very accessible, and it has a low cost. But it does not remove all contaminants. Heavy metals may be present, PFASs, toxic compounds, and filter maintenance is required. And that's true of any sort of water you want to filter. And then there's artesian water, which is naturally pasteurized. It is a mineral-containing water, has a very smooth taste. Those have told me, I've never tried it. And its mineral content will vary from one container to the next and may not be regulated consistently. And because it's not, I don't use it. Just like the pH water, it said pH of 11 on the container, it was a 7. And then well water, which is rich in mineral content based on the geology and the minerals, obviously, that the water had run over, and that the water, of course, takes up those minerals, and there you have it. So, but there's risk of bacterial and parasitic infections and heavy metals or parasite exposure with well water, so you must be careful. But you can take your well water and you can run it through, for example, a reverse osmosis unit. So depending on your health needs and your interests, these are some of the possible waters to consider, and some that you should not. And there are many, many others. And if there's one or two I left out that you'd like to hear about, just let me know, and then we'll talk about that on another show. And I always like to talk about the laboratory for a few minutes during my podcast, because after all, I am nicknamed the Blood Detective. The book I showed earlier, this one right here, gives the laboratory meaning medically and nutritionally for about 170 different laboratory tests. So how do you know where to start? These are the basic ones if you want to look at your body in terms of water implications. So we always want to check electrolytes. We want to measure the sodium, the potassium, the chloride, and the bicarbonate minimally. We want to look at kidney function by looking at the blood BUN, blood urea nitrogen, the creatinine, and the EGFR, all has to do with renal function, and also do a urinary dipstick, which will check some other renal issues. And then hydration status, measuring what's known as serum osmolarity and urine specific gravity. These are all tests that let you know how well hydrated you are or not, so then you can focus on correcting them and then redoing the test to make sure that your efforts have worked beyond you simply feeling better. Many people feel better when they're underhydrated, but we want to know that we're feeling better, obviously, and we want to do the proper tests pre and post the hydration effort. And then measurements of toxicity and other contaminants that might be in the water that you're drinking. Many of my clients present with water, even bottled water, that has resulted in contamination in their bodies with various toxins like heavy metals, because we've measured them. So you want to do a heavy metal panel. You want to check for the lead, the arsenic, the mercury, and the cadmium at the very least. And these would be about the most essential tests. And then what you do those tests, and whatever laboratory seems to be correct given the entire health picture and health goals of the individual, such that, as this chart shows, a personalized health plan can be developed for the person. The recommended daily allowances, the RDAs of vitamins, by the way, those are governmental guidelines, are way too low. So we want to give the proper nutritional corrections in the form of orthomolecular doses of nutrition, which simply means a higher proper dose of nutrition, or an optimal dose. And then when we look at the lab work, by the way, we want to compare your results to the clinical ranges that you'd find on a blood report or urine report. But you also want to compare your results against healthy people, because your regular blood tests are not doing that. They're simply comparing you to men or women in your age category that were seemingly well when they donated the blood, or their blood sample was taken and added into the national average to which you are being compared. So that'll about do it for this presentation on water and its many forms. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you at the next podcast. Thank you so much.